my man Pete. This is where we're at today, man. I wanted to show you some cool stuff. This is what we came to see. This guy mowing the grass. Kidding. So, I told you I was gonna come out here to this place. Kings Mountain State Park. This is where the battleground is. A little entrance. Got these old-fashioned little fence deals going on, bro. Kind of cool. They're just kind of laying there. But I'm gonna go into the park and show you some cool stuff and maybe teach you a little bit about the history of the conflict, since you were interested. All right, so here we are, man. Kings Mountain National Military Park Visitor Center in 1 mile. U.S. Department of Interior National Park Service. Obviously nothing much to see here. We still got a mile to go, but kind of a cool looking sign. Big arrowhead with a buffalo on it. Really don't know why. Maybe they chose the arrowhead because, and I'll get into this in the other videos when I get there, but maybe because the settlers, the American colonists in this area were primarily predisposed during the Revolutionary War with the conflict with the Indians. But again, I'll get into that more when I get there. Here we are. There's the visitor center. Kings Mountain National Military Park. I know how you like seeing Old Glory. There she is. There we go. Give us a wave.
Is it okay if I do one?
Yeah.
Okay. This is the American long rifle. This is not a weapon of war. This is a weapon that I would use to feed my family, defend my home. This weapon was made to my unique specifications by a gunsmith. When I went to the gunsmith, he measured from my finger to my shoulder. That is the distance from the trigger to the buttstock. You'll notice how curved the buttstock is, so that when I put the rifle to my shoulder, it fits. The rifle is balanced, so that even though it weighs about 9.5 pounds, it's fairly light for me to carry. And young lady, you'll notice my rifle is almost as long as you are.
Longer.
Just a little bit. Now there's a reason for that. Has a nice long barrel. Has a rear sight and a front sight. The longer the distance between the rear sight and the front sight, the more accurate you can be in your shooting.
Right.
Also, this weapon uses black powder. I have to make my bullets every time I load it. I just don't have metal cartridges like they have today in the 21st century. And I'll show you about that in a second. But when I went to the gunsmith, he and his apprentices, it might have taken them 400 hours to make my rifle. May have taken me possibly up to a year to pay for it. in barter, trade, things like that. So I'm not going to use this to bash anybody over the head with it. You see, we have a fellow patriot.
What's going on, little
see that.
soldier?
Hello. I'm not going to bash anybody over the head with it. I'm going to take very good care of this. This is probably the most expensive thing that I own. So, it has a rifled barrel. Rifling means there's grooves in the barrel which spin the bullet, which makes it far more accurate. You've all seen a football with a nice spiral that goes real nice and straight. The grooves in my barrel make the bullet go nice and straight. Now, my rifle is accurate 150 to 200 yards, 2 football fields. Open sights, assuming the person behind the rifle can see that far. Some of us, being a little older, have a bit of difficulty reaching out, especially in the 18th century, where they don't have spectacles to correct your vision. They had some glasses, but without my spectacles, I can see that there's a brown shape. I know it's a sign because I've been here
We call
before.
him Jim.
But I see there's a brown shape up there. But with my spectacles, I can see that it's a sign. 150 to 200 yards is not unusual. However, at the Battle of Saratoga in 1777, there was a man by the name of Timothy Murphy who saw General Simon Fraser, a British general. Mr. Murphy got into a tree, fired a shot, and hit General Fraser. General Fraser died the next morning. It was 400 yards. 4 football fields, open sights with a rifle like this. Now, does this mean every man in the 18th century can do this?
No.
No. But right man, right gun, right time, it is capable. Now, loading the American long rifle is a bit of a laborious process. I have my hunting pouch, it has my shot in it. I have my powder horn. I must keep my gunpowder dry. Your powder horn, your cow horn is kind of like your all-purpose container. To load my rifle, the first thing I need to do is I need to take gunpowder from my powder horn, and I'm going to pour it into my powder measure. I always need to know how much powder is in my rifle. That's going to determine how far the shot goes, the distance, things like that. I'm hardly ever never going to just take powder and dump it down the barrel. I don't care how many times people have seen that in other media. It's not going to happen for a couple of reasons. You know how much powder's in my barrel? 2, if I start dumping powder and there's a hot spark left at the bottom of my barrel,
Spoiled.
you got it. I've got a nice I've got 2 pounds of gunpowder here that's going to go off. So, after I take my powder, I pour the powder down my barrel. The next thing I do is I reach into my pouch and I pull out a piece of patching. The patching I put over the barrel. That helps the ball grab the rifling in the barrel. I then take, not the peppermint, I then take the round ball, put it on top, take my knife, cut off the excess patching. Still not ready yet. Put all this back for the next time. Put the patching. Now that I have the ball and the patching on the barrel, take the edge of my knife, and I'm going to get the ball started down the barrel because the combination of the ball and the patching is slightly larger than the diameter of the barrel. But I can do that because lead is soft and malleable. So once I get it started, I draw my ramrod and I ram everything home. There's a mark on my ramrod. This is my 100 grain of powder mark, which happens to be how much powder my powder measure measures. Okay. I'm going to make sure that this mark is at the edge of my barrel. If it's proud of the barrel, I put more stuff down than I thought. If it's below the barrel, I forgot something. Powder, ball, heat of combat, I left something out. Then I take my ramrod, and I'm never ever going to stick my ramrod into the ground next to me, because if I have to leave in a hurry and forget this, I've got a very expensive club. At least until I can find another gunsmith or a straight piece of hickory to make another ramrod. Still not ready, but we're getting there. Now, what I do after that is I take some powder and I put it here into the pan. This is a flintlock mechanism. Now, if you look very closely, you can see there's a small hole here in my barrel. When I put the powder in and close the steel and pull the trigger, the flint, which is a hard rock, strikes the steel, creating a spark. The sparks ignite the powder in the pan. The powder in the pan ignites the powder in the barrel. And the powder in the barrel is what fires the projectile. It's going to take me about 1 minute to load my rifle. Not necessarily the most efficient way to do things. In addition, before he closed the back of the barrel, the breech, he took a lead slug and rammed it through the barrel. That gave him the diameter of the rifle. He then used that lead slug to make a bullet mold so that I could make my own bullets. You just don't go to the store in the 18th century and say, hey, I need some 40 caliber round ball or 50 caliber round ball. As a matter of fact, in the 18th century, the caliber or bore diameter of your barrel was determined by the number of round balls you can get out of a pound of lead. The smaller the number, the bigger the diameter of the barrel. For example, the Brown Bess musket, which was standard issue for the British Army, it was a 75 caliber barrel, fired a 69 caliber round ball. That comes out to be about 12 balls per pound. The Charleville musket, which was standard issue for the Continental Army, 62 caliber ball, about 20 balls per pound. Some of you may recognize that's kind of similar to the gauge of modern day shotguns. But you had to make your own bullets. You lost your bullet mold, you had to find a blacksmith or a gunsmith to make you another bullet mold. In addition, since this rifle was made to my unique specifications by a gunsmith, if any part of it breaks, if the lock breaks, stock breaks, whatever, I have to find a gunsmith, maybe a blacksmith, in order to repair it. There really isn't a lot of mass production. This was made individually. Each one of these is unique. Any questions so far? All right, now.
Очень интересная история в Америке. So here we are, man. Kings Mountain Battleground. I'm gonna be walking around the trail here and talking about anything that I see, whether it's a gravesite or a monument, something like that. So while I'm walking, I'll give you a little bit of background on how the whole thing went down and who fought on each side. So the Battle of Kings Mountain was fought on our behalf by a group of people known as the Watauguans. So the Watauguans were a group of Scottish-Irish settlers that came to America in the early 1700s. And they settled in the northwestern part of North Carolina in the mountains. And they were also the first group on the continent to declare independence from British rule. Actually, they signed their own Declaration of Independence in 1772. And as you probably know, the Americans signed theirs as a whole in 1776. So after they declared their own independence, the British ordered them to cease and desist and to vacate the area and go back to northern Carolina because they didn't want them close to the war effort. They didn't want the American forces condensed because it would be harder to fight against. So they give the order. Obviously, the Wataugans disregard all of that, but the British didn't really respond because the British knew that the Wataugans were preoccupied. They were far away from where the war was going on, and they were preoccupied with fighting the Native Americans in this area. So there's Kings Mountain there. That's the ridge that the battle was fought on. You can see the people walking down. So like I said, they were far off from the war effort and for the most part ignored until the Continental Army, the British Army, defeated the Americans in Charleston. Once that happened, Patrick Ferguson and a group of loyalists, and now these loyalists were American colonists that were still sucking the sack of the British crown, and they wanted to still be under British rule. They enjoyed the taxation. They were cucks. So he led a group of loyalist militiamen to sweep north of Charleston and sweep west of Charleston, which eventually led them to this area, in which they met the Wataugans here, and that's when the battle took place. He thought he was going to come up here and stick his foot in some colonial asses, but in the end, he received the foot in the ass. And actually, a little fact, Patrick Ferguson, when they killed him, they left him here. So his body is still here. It's buried here. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. So here it is. This is Patrick Ferguson's grave. It's fucking cool. Here, let me help. Fuck you, Patrick. Looks like everybody just fucking covered him up with a bunch of rocks. He's resting in pieces. What the fuck is this bullshit? Hold on. Fuck you. Alright. To the memory of Colonel Patrick Ferguson, 71st Regiment, Highland Light Infantry, born in Aberdeenshire, Scotland, 1744. Killed October 7th, 1780. In action at Kings Mountain while in command of the British troops. A soldier of military distinction and of honor. This memorial is from the citizens of the United States of America in token of their appreciation of the bonds of friendship and peace between them and the citizens of the British Empire, erected October 7, 1930. I mean, I don't understand that. There was not a lot of bond and friendship going on when we were fucking killing each other. I don't understand that. But, I mean, it is good to at least show respect to your enemies. But that's his grave. Right there. Bunch of rocks. Guy with the last name Young. I forget his first name off the top of my head. But he was the American who shot him. He shot him with a rifle that was named after his wife's nickname. So whatever you call your wife, that was what the Wataugans did. Whatever you called your wife, that's what you named your rifle. So he called his rifle Sweet Lips. And that's what took down old Patrick Ferguson. Let's go check out this little monument. Hopefully I don't bust my ass on the way down here. Okay. This tablet marks the spot where Colonel Frederick Hambright was wounded, placed by Colonel Frederick Hambright, chapter Daughters of the American Revolution. Okay. So this is where he was shot. And as you know, well, I don't know if I stated it before, but the British and the Loyalists were camped out on the top of the ridge. And the reason why they did this, they figured, hey, I got the high ground on all sides. If they advance on us, then, you know, we have a fire superiority. So that actually ended up working against him because the dumbass just left himself surrounded on all sides of the mountain. So this is where one of our boys was making his way up. They were up there shooting down, and this is where he was injured. At that exact spot. It's fucking cool. And here's the spot where Patrick Ferguson was shot and killed. We got a damn cap busted up in his ass by fucking America. Right there. Our guy was shot over there, advancing up the hill. They eventually closed in on him on all sides. And that's where he died. That's where his grave is down there. I don't know if you can see it or not. Over there. I guess they were going to transport his body somewhere, and they just were like, why the fuck are we doing this? Let's just leave this asshole here. And they covered him up with rocks, and the rest is history. Moving along. There's old Mr. Ferguson. He looked like a bitch boy, don't he? The chaos of the battle roared alongside this ridgetop, piercing the din of gunfire and wounded men's groans. Ferguson's silver whistle shrilled, rallying his Tories. 2 horses were shot out from under him. Ferguson seemed to be everywhere at once. While he was charging and slashing at the advancing Whigs, 8 or 9 rifle balls struck the major at the same time. His unusual checkered duster had made him an easy target. Ferguson fell from his saddle. His boot caught in the stirrup. So that's probably what happened. He got shot off, and then the horse just kept fucking walking, dragging him by the stirrup. Got ourselves another little monument over here. Sounds like that dude just fired that rifle. We missed it. In honor of Lieutenant Colonel James Hawthorne, commander of Colonel William Hill's regiment, York County troops in the Battle of Kings Mountain, 7 October 1780. Colonel Hill, having been disabled by wounds received in a former engagement. Erected by Kings Mountain Chapter Daughters of the American Revolution, York, South Carolina, 1949. Not a very good cameraman. Just give you a view of what everything looks like. The nutsack on that tree. Here's the ridge. I'm on Kings Mountain on the top. And here is the centerpiece. It's got all the names of the men that died in battle. Mortally wounded, the wounded, and the killed. And then there's 24 unknown. Nobody knows what happened to them. Probably ran home or something. To commemorate the victory of Kings Mountain, October 7th, 1780, erected by the government of the United States, to the establishment of which the heroism and patriotism of those who participated in this battle so largely contributed. Some nice little architecture going on there. This is the leadership. Field. The Patriot forces attacked and totally defeated an equal force of Tories. I need to do some research on what that means. I'm not familiar with that term. And British regular troops. The British commander, Major Patrick Ferguson, was killed and his entire force was captured after suffering heavy loss. This brilliant victory marked the turning point of the American Revolution. Yeah, so going along with that, the story goes that once the American forces were demoralized and victory seemed so out of reach, even George Washington himself stated that they were on the precipice of defeat. So around that time, word was spreading of what took place here, because Patrick Ferguson was, very, very well respected and revered among Americans and the British both. So once everyone heard that a bunch of hillbillies, the Watauguns, came up here and kicked his ass, they were like, all right, we might be able to win this shit. But of course, the French came over here and helped us out ultimately. So, and that's the way I see it. That's the way I think that we would have been very hard pressed to win this war if it weren't for the French. But that pretty much sums it up, man. I hope you enjoyed looking around and getting to see different parts of America, man. If you have any other things you want to see, bro, let me know.